Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News. If you thought the Baku Grand Prix was bad last weekend, just get ready for Miami, baby, because inexplicably, after all the drivers complained last time out that they shortened the DRS zone in Baku and therefore it made the race a procession, they've only got to done it again here at Miami, but not just on one occasion, but two separate DRS zones are shorter than last year. What does this mean for the racing? Who is making these decisions? Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. First of all, this is the brand new, I mean, it's very similar, let's be honest here, to what they normally run, but they've been gassing up this, special livery, one-off livery for the Miami Grand Prix. This is what Red Bull are going to be rocking with. I'm guessing Oracle just chose the one that obstructed their logo the least, because it's not massively different, let's be honest, than the normal one, but I think it looks kind of nice, to be honest here. Just a comparison to some of the other Red Bull one-off liveries they have ran across their history in Formula 1 from back in Britain 2012. They had the Star Wars one as well, but I don't believe they ran that in the race. So look, historically it must be said, they actually haven't been that good on weekends where they've run a one-off livery. So will that curse manage to slow them down this weekend? Probably not, but still, it's a quick update for you guys. Also on the development part of the teams, Ferrari are looking to introduce a brand new floor in Miami. Pretty big upgrade from them that they expect to take them in the right direction. But the other problem that Ferrari have is they've been trying to poach aerodynamicists from around the sport, especially from Red Bull. We talked about a couple of names a couple of days ago now that were meant to be joining, but the latest update is they're not going to go. Negotiations with Enrico Balba quickly came to a halt when it turned out that he wanted to stay in Milton Keynes. And the other guy, Pierre, that we talked about, he immediately rejected their proposal. So they tried to get these two, this is number 2 and number 3 in command behind Adrian Newey over there at Red Bull. They tried to get both of these guys apparently, and they've said, nah, we ain't doing that. We ain't leaving to Ferrari. And I can't really blame them. It's also pretty entertaining that Dan Fallows, another unfortunate Ferrari L, last year who joined Aston Martin, of course, and has turned around their project. They tried to get him to go to Ferrari in 2021, but, that didn't happen. He joined Aston instead. So, yeah, Ferrari, a little bit tricky for them. The rumour has it they still do have some plans in the works here to sign other engineers, and maybe some other ones from Red Bull as well. But the two guys that we thought at least were in conversations, that's not happening apparently anymore, and a lot of Ferrari's plans have been falling through. We'll see if their floor fails to deliver as well. They're hopeful that with 3 DRS zones it should help Aston Martin and Mercedes a little bit as well as the Red Bull compared to the Ferrari possibly. But they're bringing an updated floor to this weekend, and in fairness the DRS zones are now shorter, as we'll get into a second. I've no idea why they've made this change, but yes, a brand new upgraded floor. Must be said, when Ferrari brought their new floor last year to France, it actually made their car worse. So it was pretty much that point downhill from the rest of the season. So we shall see. It's meant to combat some of the porpoising that they've been having, still a little bit on that Ferrari that other teams have seemingly got rid of, and also more load in the medium speed corner. So it should be helpful, but that does remain to be seen in part. Another big piece of news on the Mercedes side, with rumours emerging that their upgrade for Imola that we've been talking about a lot lately is actually not going to contain the new side pod changes just yet. So we know the zero pods are going to go. Now, they're not going to completely disappear to a certain extent. I know that James Hamilton has made the point that completely scrapping the W14 is not the way to go. They need to take a more iterative approach, but still, they are going to change the side pods. That's been clear for some time, but it's going to be a new front axle and a new floor come Imola, which is very interesting, right? Because it's the front axle where Mercedes believed they were suffering really compared to Aston and Red Bull. We understand that the reason why they can be so good over the curbs and in the traction zones is probably on the front axle side, because Mercedes and Aston Martin share the same rear axle, but Aston and Red Bull have very similar concepts in some of the corners. Just the Red Bull gains a lot in straight line speed generally compared to the Aston Martin over the past few races. So a new front axle is where Mercedes believe their detriment is. Obviously a new floor as well, and a floor that's probably designed to accommodate for the new side pods, but apparently they're not coming in Imola and will come after that. So probably Spain would be the next guess then as to where they're going to arrive. That was the rumour initially, that Imola was going to be the big change, but then it was going to be consolidated to a certain extent in Spain. So big changes expected still at Imola, but not the whole works, and the zero pods will remain for a few more races than it was initially expected, but they will follow in a later upgrade. And this is how it works for Mercedes and other teams. To introduce upgrades nowadays, it's pretty tricky. There is a cost cap in play. I believe even Toto Wolff made the point today that it's quite painful actually making the upgrades happen. I think there was even a quote that came up from Toto Wolff yesterday where he said, before the cost cap, we wouldn't have even known how much a front wing cost or something like that. He was like, we don't care about the money. It's just, make a new front wing. So whatever it costs, right? But nowadays they have to look into it. And it means that for them, taking a more iterative approach where they do one thing one weekends, bring a new thing the next weekend once they're sure it works, is probably the best way to do this, because cost cap is a very important phenomenon nowadays in Formula One. Let's talk then about the Miami Grand Prix coming up this weekend, because of course Toto Wolff also made the point a few days ago, why is the racing so boring nowadays? Largely, at least this season so far, because the cars are harder to follow than previously. This was frankly an inevitability. The cars under the same set of regulations, okay, slightly modified for this year, especially with the floor being raised. Floor generates less downforce. The teams have put all the downforce on the rest of the car they can, but that was going to happen anyway. The cars under the same set of regulations are going to get more downforce year on year, and the more downforce you get, the more dirty air you get, and the car behind struggles in the corners. Especially with Verstappen making the point, the cars are so heavy that one small moment in a corner, because you're in the dirty air of the car in front, you have less downforce, means you slide a bit, you heat up the tyres more than you would otherwise, and it really hurts you. So the heavy cars plus the dirty air, which has come back more and more this year, means overtaking is very much more challenging than it has been previously. We saw it the first few races this season. There haven't been as many overtakes, and overtakes aren't the be-all and end-all of a good race, but, Baku was not good. It was a complete procession, even when it seemed like Hamilton and even maybe Alonso towards the end of the race over Leclerc had more pace, just wasn't going to be able to get the move done, because there simply wasn't the ability to get close enough through the twisty section to then attack on the straight. The cars are clearly very reliant still on DRS, and Toto Wolff was like, look, let's stop messing around with the sprint formats. Let's figure out how to resolve this serious issue in terms of what the product actually is and whether it's actually going to be entertaining. And now Verstappen and Perez say the same thing, that the current gen cars are simply much harder to overtake with. And this was the point that people were making in Baku, that they shortened the DRS zone by 100 meters, which I reckon was probably the difference between Hamilton being able to get that move done on site and not being able to. Now, you can argue whether Hamilton should have had more of a pace differential to get it done, but let's be honest here, that was not a good move for the entertainment value of that race, because overtaking was just not going to happen during that Grand Prix. So now we get here to Miami, and guess what? They've done the same thing again. Can you believe it? Who is making these decisions? Lewis Hamilton at the time in Baku was like, look, I can't, why have they done this? They didn't make any sense. They didn't consult the drivers. They didn't say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Should we shorten the DRS zone or not? The drivers would have said, look, it's harder to follow this year. We need the DRS. Yes, in previous seasons, theoretically last year in 2022, the DRS could have been short, or maybe some overtakes were done too easily, and we don't want overtakes to be easy. They want, they should be challenging, but this year's cars are closer possibly to what we had before the 2022 regs, so at least maintaining the DRS zones as they are probably maintains what we had before. Yes, in an ideal world, DRS doesn't exist, the cars can follow, but, they're still reliant on it. It's very clear, and Hamilton and pretty much all the drivers were like, they didn't ask us what we thought about this, they just did it, and it ruined the race in parts. So of course, the FIA have taken the lessons on board from Baku and have decided to do exactly the same thing again. This is the Miami track layout confirmed here today. This is your start-finish straight down here into turn one. You've got the twisty, quite exciting first sector really, but look, you're going to be in the dirt here, you're going to be losing time, difficult to maintain, to be particularly close to the car in front during sector one, and then you get into sector two, which is pretty much this massive long straight. Now, the DRS detection is right out of turn 8, and the DRS activation used to be pretty much exactly on turn 9, but it's now 75 meters further down the road. So Baku, we know that they pushed it back by 100 meters, and that was probably the difference of overtakes getting done and not getting done. This is pushed back by 75 meters. So again, what that means is cars that are behind are going to have a more significant pace differential to the car in front to make any moves happen. Qualifying becomes all the more important. And look, DRS activation is now further down, and it's the same story for this final straight going down into turn 17, with the activation and detection significantly further apart, right? I mean, this is going to be reminiscent possibly of what we see in Baku on that second straight, where by the time the cars have concertinaed away out of the corner and DRS is open, you're just not really going to catch that guy in front up, generally is how it's been. So I don't know what they're thinking here, to be honest. This is actually pretty mind-blowing to me. There was rumours going around even last night that they were going to do this, and it's like, have they not listened to the drivers? Have they not watched the Baku Grand Prix? Because based on last year, I think there was 53 overtakes at last year's Miami Grand Prix. It didn't feel that way because the race direction was terrible and we never got to see any of them, but there was actually quite a good race going on there. So maybe they think, based on last year's cars and how good the Red Bull is in a straight line with DRS open, open. It will still be good no matter what the DRS activation level is. They're thinking, all right, let's shorten the DRS zone to make it harder to overtake, because if overtakes are getting done too easily, that's pretty boring, right? And I understand that. But based on what we've seen from the drivers so far, what we saw in Jeddah, what we saw in Australia, what we saw in certainly Baku, this seems like an absolutely nonsensical decision. So Baku was bad enough, and get ready for possibly more of the same here, because for multiple reasons I've described, this should not, I don't think, be happening, and they're doing it anyway. The drivers for sure are not going to be happy about this. I can almost guarantee that, because they said the same thing after Baku. They were like, they didn't even ask us, and they did it anyway, and it was bad for the race. So they're doing it yet again. I simply don't understand why, but yeah, everyone seems to be in agreement with my perspective on that one. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it rains, and maybe it's fine, but I believe there's some rules going around in America where there's potentially going to be thunderstorms and lightning and stuff like this. And if there is storms around, there's some sort of regulations in the US that events cannot be run in said vicinity. So look, if it rains, the FIA is already liable to just stop the race. They've done that before. And if it's thunderstormy, then they might be forced to call it off. So we can't even hope this weekend for rain to save us to have a good Grand Prix, because it might do the exact opposite. So I don't even know what to think anymore, but I wasn't really looking forward to this weekend anyway, and now even more so. We're probably going to get another procession. So maybe it sparks up, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. I don't know who's making these decisions right now, but are they trying to ruin Formula 1 or are they not? I mean, you can't make some of this stuff up. Just to quickly mention before we close out here, some rumours around Lewis Hamilton's future. Toto Wolff has confirmed that he's 100% committed to putting pen to paper. There's always going to be big rumours and discussions around Hamilton's contract situation. Jenson Button reckons, yeah, he's going to re-sign. And even Hamilton made the comment today that I feel younger than I ever have done, feel like I'm in a great place, so I don't see why I would need to stop racing anytime soon, and there's a lot more I want to do within the sport. So pretty much confirming Hamilton's going to stay around. You would imagine that will be at Mercedes, unless Ferrari come in with an absolute mega bag that he might be tempted by, but probably not going to happen. So I imagine that's going to get confirmed over the summer months, but nonetheless, it's obviously going to be a big talking point to whatever happens there. But very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new. Take care, and I will see you next time.